Okay guys, so to celebrate 200 subs and hitting that, I'm basically going to go through and do this. It is the political compass test, and the reason why I want to do this is because, well, people keep calling me alt-right and claiming that I'm right. So let's go through, do the test. I already know what the results are going to be. I've already done this once before, a couple of weeks back, but to the answers I actually reversed by accident. I said agree instead of disagree, and disagree instead of agree. So I want to go through it, redo it so it can be completely 100% accurate, and it's basically a way of celebrating 200 subs. So let's jump through it, and if you have any questions in the comments, please feel free. If you want to discuss it, let me know in the comment section below. Apart from that, enjoy guys. So let's jump through. If economic globalization is inevitable, should it primarily serve humanity rather than the interest of trade? Strongly agree. Right, I always believe that humanity should be rather served than a large corporation. I'd always support my country whether it's right or wrong. Disagree. There are times, for example, like when we went to Iraq, Afghanistan, I strongly disagreed with that, regardless of whether my country won or not. So yeah, I think sometimes the country can be run by the man or the deep state, and in which case I am going to disagree just for the fact I just disagree with it. Because it's wrong. It's morally wrong. I don't think we should go and blow up a third world country just because they want to sell weapons, for example. No one chooses her country of birth, so it's foolish to be proud of it. I disagree. Reason why I say that is because nationalism is a great cure for racism. So for example, if you get a whole lot of migrants that come to your country, they integrate and they become proud of their country and start interacting with the country, it actually can lead to the elimination of racism, because people are very tribal by nature. So being a part of a tribe, which is your country, will actually lead to reduced racism. So that's good. Our race has many superior qualities compared with other races. Disagree. Strongly disagree, actually. No, just disagree. There are races that do have superior qualities, like, for example, gaming. Obviously, if you go and talk to, like, the Asians, for example, those ninja-like reflexes, obviously certain like, for example, certain cultures are better with math and science, but generally, I don't think any one race is better than others. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. Disagree. Not always. Military action that defines international law is sometimes justified. I agree. Just because of the fact that sometimes it can be the fact that international law is for, like, for example, bombing a third world country, and the country might necessarily agree with it. So, for example, say the UN wants to bomb Syria because that's happening at the moment. Then obviously if the US doesn't want to get involved, then obviously that would be violating international law because the UN wants everybody to get involved, or vice versa. For example, say the UN doesn't want to get involved, and there is actually weapons of mass destruction, then sometimes it can be violating the law, international law, by going in and removing that threat. But it's very rare circumstances, so only agree. There is now a worrying fashion of information and entertainment. Strongly disagree. I'm on YouTube. Of course I'm going to disagree with that. People are ultimately divided more by class than nationality. Yeah, strongly agree, actually. Strongly agree with that. No, disagree, actually, yeah. Controlling inflation is more important than controlling unemployment. I strongly agree. Just the fact that obviously if your inflation gets out of control, your employment is going to get out of control anyway. So yeah, definitely. Because of corporations cannot be trusted with voluntary protection of the environment, they require regulation. Yeah, agree. For each according to his ability, each according to his need is a fundamental good idea. Oh, I hate this question. Right. This is where I know it's Marx. So each according to his ability, from each according to his ability to each according to his need. I think I agreed with that last time. I think. Let me just do a very quick... I know this question gets a lot of people because they really need to put an example. Okay, so free access and distribution of goods and services. Um, Karl Marx, yeah, there it is there. Free access and distribution of goods, capital, and services. In the Marx view, such an argument will be made possible that the abundance of goods and services that are developed communist style will produce the idea that is the full development of socialism. Debates on the idea. Marx. Look, I'm just going to say agree on that one. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. It's a sad reflection on a society that something as basic as drinking water is now bottled. Agree. I don't think water should be bottled and sold. Due to the fact I think everybody should have clean access to clean water. So it is, yeah, it's definitely sad the fact that we actually have to go through and sell it rather than actually just giving everybody clean tap water. Like for example, like Michigan sort of areas, they should have clean bottled water and drinking water. They shouldn't have to buy bottled water. So I agree with that. Land should not be a commodity bought and sold. Disagree. It's regrettable that many people's fortunes are made from people who simply manipulate money. Agree. Protection is sometimes necessarily in trade. Yeah, agree. Other social responsibilities for companies should be delivered at profits. No, disagree. Strongly disagree, actually. I think also companies have responsibility to. Actually, I disagree with it. The companies, yes, they should be responsible for their profits, but they also should be responsible for their economic footprint and also the environment and whatnot that they leave behind. The rich are too highly taxed. Disagree. Depending on what country you're in. Like if you're in the US or in the UK, it depends. So, yeah. With the ability to pay. That said, though, you don't want your taxes too high because you get what we got in Venezuela. This will be the ability to show have high access to standards of all medical care. I disagree with that. I'm more of a socialist when it comes to healthcare. I think everybody should have healthcare or be access to healthcare. That said, obviously, I don't want people taking advantage of it. So, yeah, I disagree with that. Government should penalise businesses that mislead the public. Oh, strongly disagree. Can we put CNN in that list? Genuine free market requires restrictions on the ability of predator and creative monopolies. A genuine free market requires restriction on the ability of predator. Yeah, I agree with that. You can't have one company going through and buying up the whole market because there'll no longer be a free market. I think that's what that means. The free of the market, the free of the people. Agree. Abortion, when a woman's life is not threatened, should always be illegal. Disagree. I'm completely pro-choice. It might necessarily be your thing. That's fine. If you don't want it, don't want it. But I think every woman should have the choice. Like, for example, what about rape victims? Rape victims should be able to have abortion. They shouldn't have to force to carry some bastard's kid who's threatened. That'll be a constant reminder. And that in that situation, the woman's life is not threatened. So, all authority should be questioned. Oh, yeah, to a certain point. I'm not anti-FA by any means, but I do believe that, obviously freedom of speech. You know anything about me, you know that's for sure. An eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. I sometimes agree with that. I don't know. I think we're too lenient on criminals sometimes, and I think if we started going back in that direction a little bit more, I reckon you'll find that the criminals would start to think twice about doing stuff. So I agree with that. Taxpayers should not be expected to prop up their theatre or museums that cannot survive on a commercial basis. Ooh. Depending on how many we're talking about. You're talking about we're having, 20 theatres and then propping them all up, or we're just talking about having a centralised one. I'll disagree with that to a certain point, but this needs to be a neutral. Put a neutral button in here, will you, guys? Schools should not make classroom attendance compulsory. Should not make school. Is that a trick question? What, you mean you shouldn't have to go to school? Yes, you should have to go to school. Schools should make classrooms compulsory. It should be. All people, all people that have the rights better of all the different sorts of supervision to keep their own kind. All people have their rights, but it's better for all of us if different sorts of people should keep to their own kind. Disagree. Good parents sometimes have to spank their children. I agree. I I was always brought up with a smack on the arse every time I did something wrong, and I grew up to be fine. Like my parents' biggest complaint is I'm a YouTuber. Like wow. It's natural for children to keep some secrets from their parents. Agreed. Posing marijuana for personal use should not be a crime. Agreed. The prime function of schooling should be equip future generations to find jobs. Not, yeah, okay. Sole purpose? No. Primary function? It should be one of the primary functions, but I also think it also needs to teach real life things like how to fill out taxation forms and whatnot. That would be another neutral, but they don't have that option. People with serious inherited disabilities should not be allowed to reproduce. I'll disagree with that, and I'll have no comment. Look, at the end of the day, I can. No, I'm not going there. The most important thing for children is to learn to accept discipline. Agreed. There are no savage and civilized people. There are only different types of cultures. Disagree. You get people that work in. Those with the ability to work and refuse the opportunity should not expect social support. Yeah, I agree with that. If you can functionally work and you're making excuses why you can't work, and it's an excuse just because you're lazy or you don't want to work, I strongly agree with that. Or agree actually, sorry. When you're troubled, it's better not to think about it, but keep busy being more cheerful things. So at a certain point, you do have to obviously deal with it sooner or later, but yeah. First generation immigrants can never be fully integrated within their new countries. Disagree. There are some, not many, but there are some. What's good for the most successful corporation is ultimately good for all of us. Disagree. No. Broadcasting institution, however independent its content, should receive public funding. Agreed. In fact, I would actually say that if they're more independent, they should receive more funding. Not to influence their decisions, but because of the fact that they need it more than anything. Our civil liberties are being excessively curbed in the name of counterterrorism. To a certain point, I agree with that. A significant advantage of one-party state is that it avoids all the arguments and delays and strongly disagree. Although the electronic age makes official surveillance easier, only wrongdoers need to be worried. Strongly disagree. The death penalty should be an option for the most serious crimes. Agreed. A civilization should always have people obey and people. A civilized society, one must always have people above to be obeyed and people below to be commanded. I agree to that to a certain point. You're always going to have a hierarchy. Might necessarily like it, but it does work. Abstract that doesn't represent anything should be considered art at all. Disagree. I'm not going to tell people what they should or shouldn't consider art. In criminal justice, punishment should be more important than rehabilitation. I think they're both important, so I disagree with that. I think they're both important. Although I think you definitely need to be punished, and I think you also definitely need rehabilitation. A waste of time to try and rehabilitate some criminals, strongly, I agree with that. You get for example, if you go through, just say like the Boston Killer, or someone infamous like that, or Jack the Ripper. Do you really think you could actually rehabilitate Jack the Ripper? Hey Jack, let's sit down. Let's talk about our feelings. Please. You try and get a shank and try and slit your throat before you even got the sentence out. The business person and the manufacturer are more important than the writer and the artists. Disagree, no one's more important than anybody else. Mothers may have careers, but the first duty is home. Not necessarily. It's their choice. They can do whatever they want. Multinational companies are unethically exploiting the plant genetic resources of developing countries. I I agree. Yep. Making peace with the establishment is important, especially aspect of maturity. Disagree. Establishment can get fucked sometimes. Astrology accuracy. Disagree. You cannot be more moral without being religious. Disagree. Charity is better than social security as a means of helping the genuine disadvantaged. I agree with that. I think charities do a lot more sometimes than social security does. So yeah, I agree with that. Some people are naturally unlucky. Disagree. It's important that my child's school insists on religious values. Disagree. Next page. Sex outside marriage is usually immoral. Strongly disagree. I like to get my dick wet as much as possible. Same-sex couple in stable, loving relationship should not exclude from the possibility of child adoptions. I actually agree with that. Same-sex couple in a stable, as long as they're caring, loving, and whatnot, I don't care who they adopt or what they do in their own bedroom. Pornography should be legal for the adult population. Should be legal. Yeah, strongly disagree with that. What goes in a private bedroom between consenting is none of the business of the state. Strongly agree. No one can feel naturally homosexual. Disagree. I think there are people that are gay. I don't think it's as much as people say it is. I think there's a lot of, like, for example, women who are bi because it's fashionable, and guys like it, so they trick themselves into that. So yeah. These days, openness about sex has gone too far. Yes. 50-something frigging genders and whatnot. Yes, totally agree. I also saw a video just recently of 6th graders twerking on stage in a cheerleading outfit. So yes, I think sometimes that has happened. Don't even get me started on that. I saw that. I thought I was Hitler. Alright. So basically, guys, I'm centre left, really. Which is what I suspected all along. Now, the actual funny thing is, I'm actually not that far off from Gandhi, which is I'm a little bit surprised at. But anyway. But guys, look, basically, just before we end this video, I want to thank everybody that has supported me over the past 3 months or 6 months. The channel's been going for about 6 months. But we have been actually doing this full time for about 3. I know 200 subs doesn't seem a lot to some people that have been, 600,000 subs or over 1 million subscribers. But considering how new this channel actually is, I'd like to thank everybody. If you have any constructive feedback, I am more than welcome to listen to what you guys have to say. This channel is for you guys after all. Without the subscribers and the viewers, this channel is nothing. I know a few people didn't like the automatic voice, which is why I've gone back to using a filter on my voice. And a few people have actually said that's a bit better. I have had someone suggest put subtitles in, which is actually something that I'm actually going to play around with. I've just got to figure out how to actually do that. New to it all. But apart from that, guys, look, I'd like to thank everybody for their support over the past 3 months. We are only going to get bigger and better. Eventually, down the track, I want to be actually going to protests and going to elections and whatnot. Actually doing, like, boots on ground journalism and actually covering events and stuff like that. So that's all in the future, hopefully. Apart from that, guys, obviously, I also want to be putting out more videos and putting out like 3 to 5 videos a day, just covering sort of major topics. So, guys, obviously, if you're new to the channel, please welcome and subscribe. If you like our content, please smack that like button. And at the end of the day, guys, thank you very much for all the support over the past 3 months. It's only going to get bigger. Have a great day and enjoy.